Here is the video: Garp versus Rayleigh. Two scenarios. Basically, their prime form and God Valley versus, and that's the first scenario. And then in the second scenario, it's their current versions of each other. That's going to be at Sabaody, where that fight's going to take place. I'm doing that. Um, so in the first scenario, Garp has the strength. We all know he's Luffy's grandfather. He's Dragon's father. He's called Garp the Fist. You know, he's a problem. When people hear about him, they don't want to fuck with him. He's strong. He holds shit down for the Marines. Without him, the Marines would be at a loss, at a disadvantage. He's an important asset to the Marines. Now, Rayleigh is he's important to the Roger Pirates, and he fights for his crew, but it's not to the degrees of Garp. Garp is something else. Yeah. As far as the strength goes, speed goes to Rayleigh though. Rayleigh, he moves pretty quick. He was able to, and that's what he did at an old age too. He have to run upon a certain admiral who you know about. But in his younger days, he was definitely faster. Like if you think somebody who's old like that can't move around faster when they're younger, come on, man, you gotta be smarter than that. You know, speed goes to Rayleigh. Um, Durability goes to Garp. Garp's tough. He's tough, very tough. It takes a lot to damage him. You can hit Rayleigh right. He's gonna sit back and be like, damn. I wasn't expecting that. Garp's gonna be like, he's gonna take some hits. He'll let you hit him if he knows that you're weak. If he's taking hits from Rayleigh, he's gonna take some damage, but will still take a couple hits because Garp's that guy. Endurance, though, I give it to Rayleigh. Rayleigh always had to worry about people hunting his dick since he's Gold Roger's right hand man. He has to hold down in fights all the time. Garp is the one usually going after people. Now he has to fight too, but sometimes they're like, "Damn, Garp, you can just sit back," and he does, because he does such a good job when he goes up. What I'm saying here is, or at least endurance. He's in more fights frequently. He has to fight longer. Yeah, Rayleigh has endurance, especially when he in those days when people were hunting their dick all day. Intelligence goes to Rayleigh. You know, Monkey D family. They ain't the brightest bulbs in the. I guess Dragon's a little bit smart. He leads the Revolutionary Army, but as it comes to Rayleigh and Garp isn't the smartest guy in the world. He'll randomly fall asleep sometimes. Don't mean he can't kick ass because he has experience over Rayleigh. He was a Marine for a long ass time. He had to rise to the ranks to vice admiral, and he got there. Man, he didn't. It didn't take him that long. He still had black hair when he became a vice admiral. He was like in his 40s, like early 40s at that. Close skills go to Garp. Garp the Fist. That means he runs up on you and fucking hits you. That's what he does. Rayleigh, range skills. He outputs his hockey. He knows how to shoot hockey blasts um, like Gold Roger. You know, Range skills go to Rayleigh. Now, Recoup, I give it to Garp. Uh, I just believe, he has better, healing. Like if he's in a battle, right, and then he has to, get help. He's got the staff of, the Marines. They have more resources. Whereas Rayleigh only has his crew. He only has one guy. You know, Garp has a whole there's a whole division in the Navy that does the, you know, medical stuff. You know, so Garp is better on that end. Hacks though go to Rayleigh though, right? Rayleigh uses all of his hockey at all times. He feels the need to. He's a pirate. Garp. You know, he plays games. Like he'll hit you a little bit. He'll hit you harder if he knows you're a fucking problem and shit. Yeah, Garp's armament is better than Rayleigh's, but I do believe Rayleigh has better. Even Conquerors is slightly better for Rayleigh, but that still ain't gonna just slightly though. Still ain't gonna matter though, because the environment goes to Garp. Garp fought for God Valley. They even said he protected the Celestial Dragons, even though he doesn't agree with what they do. He was there to protect the citizens. Like I know how Garp is as a character. He was there to protect the regular people, from the pirates, from the threat that was, if he's fighting against Rayleigh too, if he's fighting Rayleigh, like he gets in this scenario, he has the environment to his advantage. 6-5, Garp wins that, and then at old age, and both of them are 78. Garp has the strength. Rayleigh has the speed still. Like I said earlier, he ran up on Kizaru to protect the Straw Hats. He made sure to get there in time. At least to hold down in that, skirmish. Garp has durability and endurance. And that's just from feats shown and shit. He had to fight against the Blackbeard Pirates by himself. He was enduring all that pain. He had the blood coming out of him, oozing out of his fucking body, and he was still, man, fucking these niggas up, man. Yeah. Rayleigh, he can hold down too. But even when even when Rayleigh went to fucking find Blackbeard, durability and endurance goes to Garp. And Rayleigh goes to save Bo Hancock. He says, I don't think I could have won in a drawn out fight with this guy. He couldn't last long, is what he's saying. If he would have had to actually pull out off his actual fight with Blackbeard, he might have lost. He would probably lost. And that's his words too. He's 78. Both of them are. Intelligence goes to Rayleigh. Rayleigh is still smart. He's knowledgeable of the seas, knows shit about the Void Century and all kind of shit. Garp knows things too, but man, he's a monkey. He's part of the monkey deep now. They play games to him. They rather not talk and do other things. Actually give you a part of the action shit. And I ain't saying really ain't part of the action. I didn't say that. I'm saying that it's more so like that with Garp. That's why Garp has more experience. Close skills go to Garp. Range skills go to Rayleigh. You saw what he did to Blackbeard. Conquerors and Mittens. Reminded Blackbeard that he still has enemies out here. He can't just do that to Bo Hancock and get away with it. Garp is Garp the Fist. He runs up on people. We already explained that earlier. Recoup goes to Garp still, like I said. That's what it is. It's the same as in the other scenario. Unfortunately, though, it didn't play out that way in the anime. We all know what happened in the anime. But he wasn't fighting against Rayleigh, he was fighting against Aokiji, who actually is more powerful than both of them. Hacks go to Rayleigh. You know, he was putting out a lot of hockey. Blackbeard was like, damn, it tricked him. The Conqueror's will was like, damn, and it made like, cause his like Blackbeard is smart too. He's like, this old man still puts out that much fucking hockey. I might, if I'm in a long fight with this guy, he could win, even though it wasn't like that. It's a psychological trick, an intimidation trick he used on Blackbeard. Is what people gotta understand. But if Blackbeard stood on that business and shit still, he could have he could have probably killed Rayleigh. Environment goes to Rayleigh in this situation because this is on Sabaody where I'm putting this fight between these two old heads. Even so, Monkey D. Garp wins 6-5. And this is an extreme diff battle, y'all. I like to do an extreme diff. These wouldn't be too fun if they were all like, I might do those just to show you how boring they are. I'll do that one day. But that is Garp versus Rayleigh on both, prime and then old age. Garp wins both times. Garp stayed consistent. He kept fighting pirates and shit. Rayleigh went into hiding. He started drinking, playing games, gambling, running around, and he was still, doing a little bit of things to keep people off his dick. But like he didn't have to consistently do stuff like Garp. And Garp did have he could sit back if he wanted to, but Garp always is like, no, I hear this pirate's doing stuff. I want to be out there. And I can do that because I'm Vice Admiral Garp. But stay cool on the corner, y'all. That's what it is, Garp versus Rayleigh.